Hi, ladies. How are you? It's tea time.
Oh, good. We're
Yes.
wonderful.
So, as you know, I'm Tia, and this is Laura Lee, and we are part of the Boots and Wings Project, Caregiver Solutions and Resources. And we have a new friend who's joining us today, and Nadine from Hopeful Healing. Would you introduce yourself and share a little bit with us about your mission, and then we're going to get into our conversation at tea time.
I'm so grateful to be invited to tea time today. And while I don't have my teacup, I trust that there is tea inside here. So my name is Nadine, and my business is Hopeful Healing. It's an integrated health service that helps people reach their highest health potential, regardless of their diagnosis. So what I bring to the table today is not only the professional experience of how caregivers manage dealing with people with dementia and how the people with dementia themselves deal with it, but also I have a personal experience. My father-in-law lived here in our home for 10 years as his Alzheimer's disease progressed. So we have a little bit of experience on two different levels here that I'm really honored that I get to share with everyone today.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. So, well, and as you see, holiday time, everybody is starting to think and have just finished their turkey and finished celebrating and gathering with folks. And one of the things that I wanted to put out there, because I heard it more than once, is that typical situation where somebody comes home, a relative comes back to another family member's home. Maybe it's a college student, maybe it's someone who's working out of state, but they've been talking on the phone to someone that they know and love. And then they realize, oh, wait, this isn't the situation that I thought it was. Something has changed. And now somebody seems a little bit more forgetful, or they're having some health issues that, as caregivers or as anticipated caregivers, we didn't know was going to happen. So we get, sometimes at the holidays, we get caught off guard. So that's one thing that I want to just talk about is when you come home, like, when did you know, or how do you know, Laura Lee, that somebody needs a little extra help because of memory, and it's not just stress, or how do we know the difference?
Sure. Well, sometimes you can actually, it's very, very clear by people's behaviors. It's not just, oh, I'm forgetful about that, but you might see little, if you know them from before, you might see little tidbits of things that look like, out of the norm. This isn't how I've known this person, how this used to be. And you might validate that with somebody who does not live alone. You might do a lot of validation with another family member or a friend. And sometimes it's like, have you noticed? And they might not, they've been afraid to even say it out loud. But you go, you know what? I kind of see something a little different. I mean, obviously, maybe not in the crowd or putting anybody on the spot, but you might just start saying this because sometimes it may mean that a person has not even said it out loud themselves. And they just need a little bit of some validation that you're also feeling that, has it been this forgetful? Have you noticed other things of whether you're saying the keys in the freezer or, those things happen to people normally all the time in little bits and pieces. But if you're noticing these sorts of things, I just want you to know that I'm somebody else checking it out with you. And sometimes that's just the very beginning. It may not be as bad as you think, but you're validating it for yourself as well.
Right. And I understand what you're saying. But I say things like my keys are in the freezer because I have a concussion, right? I had a fishing concussion, which that's a whole nother story, but I went fishing with my son and bumped my head. So from time to time, I'll do goofy things. So how do we, Nadine, what was your experience like Laura Lee is describing, or how do we differentiate somebody who's forgetful, somebody who has a disease progression, somebody who's just has word problems because they're thinking too fast? What was your experience, and how did you know you needed to maybe take an extra step, and what did that look like for you?
So it's interesting that you brought up the holidays, because that was the one piece that my in-laws had lived in Wilkes-Barre. And so it was that traveling up to see them and going and we would talk to them all the time, but there was always that with my father-in-law's progression, it was the subtle little things. So now my mother-in-law was already diagnosed. She had a stroke. So she had memory issues and loss of mobility from her stroke, and he was her primary caregiver. And there was a lot of burden on him for that. But it was really the nuances of his caregiving for her that was the first indicator for us, as well as subtle little things like preparing meals. And we went to make croissants, and we pulled the croissants out of the oven, and he goes, no, they look like a triangle. That's what they're supposed to look like. So he baked the croissants without rolling them up. And it was such a tiny little things. And I love how, Laura Lee, you brought up some interesting subtle things that make you go, is this happening or isn't this happening? And trusting your own instinct. What ultimately was our deciding factor was in that caregiver role, my mother-in-law got into a tub and was getting a bath, and my father-in-law had fallen asleep, and she couldn't get out by herself.
Oh.
And so she had to go through all this drama of fill the tub back up so she could float, turn herself around so the good arm was on the outside, get
Wow.
herself out of the tub with, cognitively was amazing for her to figure that all out. But she said she went stomping into him naked as a jaybird. You left me in the tub. How could you do that? And I think it was for them both, as well as for us, a very aha moment that his caregiving ability was really threatened the most.
Yeah.
And I think that link between something that that they love and they find honorable and purposeful in their life becomes a little skewed. That's where we really noticed. So that was when we made the decision to have them come and live with us.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy decision to come by. And I know that other folks have done it as well. But it's a very just hard decision, and to have some guidance around that would be something that I would definitely recommend. That unless it's an immediate, like, we have to do this right now because it's dangerous. If there's some time that you can plan ahead, I'm always preaching planning ahead. So that's really important. So the other thing that happened in this conversation that I really like is, Nadine, your description of somebody, getting out and starting, and there are really funny things that go on with our caregiving experiences, and the value of just not taking everything so seriously. It's really hard. I've done it, but can you speak to that a little bit, Laura Lee? Like, just the benefit of your experience and humor in the face of taking care of other people when things are just a little nutty.
Oh, definitely. I think that for all families that I've dealt with that have had a demented person or person with Alzheimer's, or even just very beginning stages, where they have said things out loud and do the things where they kind of make a joke, they sometimes might suddenly feel guilty about it. So they make a little joke about something ma or pa or somebody did, but then they're like, but for you to be able to find the humor with them, and that whole thing of, yes, you do need to laugh at times because this is really hard. And sometimes they're bringing up the jokes as you were saying, they'll do something funny themselves and kind of get a sense of humor, and to bring that back to them is another wonderful thing for their memory. I know my father used to be an avid reader, of course, and that started fading. Another signal. He used to want to play golf like all the time, and he didn't want to play golf anymore. So these back offs of old behaviors, but he would sometimes make jokes about it. So we could laugh about the things he would say, but we also understood that for everyone it involved a certain loss. But just because it involves this terrible loss, when somebody's willing to sort of joke about it or say, but instead of doing that, this is what I do, and think that it's funny, they're still trying to hold on to their sense of humor a lot of times as well. And they might even feel like they're not supposed to be joking about it. But I think to be able to hold on to that and be able to say, what you just said, did you mean to say that? That's really funny. I know my father had a great sense of humor. So there would be times that you could bring that back to him, and I keep saying my father because we did a 15-year thing with him as well. And my mom was really it. So for a lot of that initial, how do we know? I mean, we're talking from the beginning. They went to memory clinic. They did all the little things and brought us along with them of what was going on with Daddy till he got really terrible. So
what are some of those little things? What are some sort of just maybe 2 or 3 just strategic, tactical, physical? And I'm sure, Nadine, you probably have some too. So what are a couple of things that as a nurse you'd recommend folks
I think
do that when they're like, ooh, we need to do something?
Yeah, I think it's when he first started being forgetful, and he's a public speaker, he was a politico, all that. So he started saying, he had a 70th birthday party where he said, "I still here, I love it, look at all my friends, everything's great." But I mean, he was kind of poetic and writing about his body changes, but he's like, and there's sort of a lot of more cobwebs in the attic. He made a whole metaphor about the house. So saying that, and then Mama seeing really, really, like you were saying, Nadine, fine-tuned little nuances of change, was able to finally talk to him about it. And they didn't tell all of us at the same time, but they slowly themselves, they would say, let's just go start with an evaluation. It really might not mean anything, except it's nice to know if you're thinking you're having some changes. Any changes at all, because let's find out how immediately to get on top of it. So it doesn't necessarily mean something right away. So all those little tiny things that you see, to have that conversation, if you can, with the loved one. And of course, this is what we would recommend for people taking care of somebody else and professionally, that in doing that, you automatically have reached out for the potential for doctors, nurses, wraparound team, support groups, things that at another time, if you're waiting and not paying attention to the little things, you're so overwhelmed that you could not ever imagine doing that, like going anywhere.
Yeah. And how about you, Nadine? What are the things that with your clients that, because you work with all different kinds of people of all different age groups and abilities, and you use that Facebook portal thing, I think was really interesting hearing about that. And are those things helpful? Like what are you finding helpful in your practice?
So when you're working with people, I love the humor aspect. So we know from science that humor changes the chemical makeup in the body. So if we can bring humor into the circumstance, it helps with the emotional and the psychological awareness of what's going on. It allows that information to kind of filter into the mind in a soft and gentle way without all the fear that comes involved when we say dementia or we say Alzheimer's or any of the other Parkinsonism, any of the other types of disease processes that fall into this category. Another thing that we like to think about is maintaining some similarities in life as best we can. So one client that I worked with was a marathon runner. And one of the challenges his family had was having him sit still. So one thing we talked about was getting him up and going with a partner and tag teaming and getting him jogging again, getting him moving again. As long as he was with a partner and he was able, we tried to maintain those things in a supportive, wraparound way that offered both support for the caregiver, but also some semblance of normalcy for the experiencer. Another thing that I like I wanted to bring up the humor piece because it brought back a memory. My father-in-law and my mother-in-law and father-in-law, with what they dealt with, my mother-in-law was very young when she had her stroke. She was 46.
Oh.
So they used humor a lot, my family did. And my father-in-law was struggling with his disease process, and he comes upstairs, and my mother-in-law had passed. And that was when we really realized, and a lot of family members might get into this, where the one caregiver was doing so much because they started taking over this, and they started taking over that, and they started taking over this. And when my mother-in-law passed away, we didn't realize that she was literally tucking him into bed every night, because that executive function of sitting on the bed, putting my head on the pillow and flipping the covers over me was gone. And we had never known that, even living in the same home.
Right.
So after he passed away, or after my mother-in-law passed away, forgive me, my father-in-law comes upstairs, my husband and I are up in the kitchen, and he comes up and he said, "Oh, Brian, I need to talk to you for a minute." It's like, "Okay, what's wrong, Pop?" "Come here, I got to show you something." Comes downstairs, and in his private bathroom, he walks Brian into the bathroom. He said, "Wow, I turned on the sink to shave and I stopped it up. And then I got in the shower and I forgot the sink was on. And when I got out of the shower, there was 2 inches of water in the bathroom." And he goes, "I'm really sorry, Brian. I'm really sorry." He goes, "But look at my shiny, clean floors." And he was so excited with how clean the floor was, and he had cleaned it all up by himself. So that's become a subtle little fun family thing, that when life gets tough, look at the shiny, clean floors. You know, and we took that whole "don't cry over spilt milk" to a whole nother level. So
That's
learning to have humor, learning to make sure that you maintain self-care as the caregiver. I
Oh,
think
so big.
imperative. And we don't do that often when we're the wife or spouse of, or the child of. We tend to just want to take care, and we forget about ourselves.
So
And
true.
that lets us not be the best caregiver that we want to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't let us fool that. So I think that, an integrated approach to making sure that everybody, all those little nuances are addressed with a lightness that's applicable, that is also tied in with acceptances. Like, okay, this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Get out the shiny, clean floors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a great start for our conversation. And I'd like to, Laura Lee and I had decided a little while ago that we're going to continue to just kind of focus on memory loss and Alzheimer's and dementia situations and things. And so next week, maybe we can again talk about that. But I'm thinking more in terms of maybe looking at the grief loss journey, the long-term shrinking world kind of scenario, and how to incorporate someone in the holidays for even if they're not with us in the same way as they used to be. There's some neat things that we can do to bring people into the celebrations, even though they're not they're not able to participate as they were when we were younger, or however we remember that, and what that means for us and our spirit during the holidays. So we'll pick that up next time that we do this. And we would love to have anybody who wants to participate in this kind of a conversation, maybe whether it's this one with us, or it can also be in another smaller group with a specific topic. If you have a specific situation or a specific kind of need that you really want to explore, you can do that with Nadine or Laura Lee or myself. Just email us. You can email your request to answersforcaregivers@gmail.com, and we'll kind of look it over, get back to you, and figure out a good time where we can have either a very private conversation with a small group of people, or if we want to just bring you on as another storyteller where we can learn from you. We want to learn from each other and caregivers and have this conversation grow and expand as we go through these tea times. And the reason we're doing tea time is because it is important to take a break, take a breath, have some tea. And at some point, I hope to share with you one of my favorite friends is has a company called the Tea Can Company, and I met her many years ago. Her name is Donna McCaffrey, and she has the Tea Can Company, and they have all kinds of neat tea. And can I just share her screen or my screen with you guys so you can see?
Sure.
Let's see. Here it is. There she is. So that's Donna. And then this is her company. And it has, and she's been around for how many years? Since 2011 or earlier. But it is so neat to see all of the different knowledge is power tea. And she has universities, and she has a health and wellness set of teas here. I don't know if you can see all the green teas, but and she does all the like the artwork, but there's just the nice gift box.
Of knowledge is power.
Right? Knowledge is power. And that's what we talk about, right, Laura Lee? That's the
Yeah.
whole point of the Boots and Wings
Love
project,
that.
right? Is to get that going. But these beautiful, just different flavors, but then also you can personalize them in ways depending on what you're doing. And so the little boxes that raise money for different situations, and let it be a good day tea gift. So I'm sharing this with you because she was so supportive many years ago when I first started talking about caregivers, and she actually made me some teas that I was giving out to some earlier clients when I was doing my initial caregiver coaching. So this is a day where we're having tea, and I was remembering her, and I haven't seen her for a while, but I wanted to let you know about the Tea Can Company and encourage people to at least check it out because it's super cool. And
Yeah.
let's see, we'll do that and come back. Is there anything else that you want to say, or before we call it a day today and get back to whatever our caregiving roles are?
Mhm. That's it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back together again maybe next week. Thank you.